The massive research vessel Discovery drifted silently through the outer edges of an unexplored solar system. Its sleek, silver hull reflected the distant starlight as it moved with precise purpose, guided by the galaxy's most advanced scanning technology. Inside the main research lab, Dr. Gray stood before a wall of holographic displays, his tall, slender form casting long shadows across the pristine white floor. Another solar system, another routine survey, he thought, adjusting the settings on the ship's pride and joy, the Universal Bioscan. The device was the pinnacle of galactic achievement, capable of analyzing any living being's complete biological makeup from orbit. In his 30 years of research, it had never failed to provide perfect data about any species they encountered. The third planet caught his attention. "Life signs detected," announced the ship's computer in its calm, measured voice. "Atmospheric composition suitable for carbon-based life forms. Multiple large population centers detected." Dr. Gray's four eyes widened with excitement. A civilized world. Those were rare finds, and each discovery brought honor to the research team. He carefully positioned the ship in a high orbit, making sure they remained undetected by the planet's primitive scanning systems. "Begin Universal Bioscan sequence," he commanded, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. The familiar hum of the scanner filled the lab as its sensors focused on one of the larger population centers below. Then something unprecedented happened. The scanner's display flickered, went dark, and displayed an error message Dr. Gray had never seen before. "Analysis failed. Unable to process biological data." "That's impossible," he muttered, running a quick diagnostic. The scanner was working perfectly. He tried again, this time focusing on a smaller group of the planet's inhabitants. The same error appeared. "Computer, run full system check on the Universal Bioscan," he ordered, his professional calm starting to crack. The computer chirped acknowledgement and began its analysis. "All systems functioning within normal parameters," it reported after a few moments. "No malfunctions detected." Dr. Gray paced the lab, his mind racing. In all recorded history, the Universal Bioscan had successfully analyzed over 50,000 different species across the galaxy. From the simplest single-cell organisms to the most complex multidimensional beings, nothing had ever confused it like this. He called Engineer Reed to the lab. The ship's chief technician arrived quickly, her dark scales gleaming under the lab lights. "What seems to be the problem?" she asked, noting Dr. Gray's troubled expression. "The scanner can't read them," he said simply, pointing to the error message still floating in the air. "It's never failed before. Not once." Engineer Reed frowned and connected her diagnostic tools to the scanner. For the next hour, they tried everything they could think of. They adjusted the scanning frequency, boosted the power, and even tried to scan different parts of the subject's body separately. Nothing worked. "The scanner is working perfectly," Reed finally concluded, scratching her scaled head in confusion. "It's not the equipment that's the problem. There's something about these beings that our technology simply can't process." Dr. Gray stared at the blue-green planet spinning below them. What kind of species could be so different, so unique, that the most advanced scanning technology in the galaxy couldn't read them? The implications were staggering. "We need to report this to Central Research," he said finally. "But first, let's gather more data, start monitoring their communications, their movements, everything we can learn without using the bioscan." As the ship's systems began collecting data, Dr. Gray felt a mixture of frustration and excitement. The scientist in him was troubled by the scanner's failure, but another part of him was thrilled. After centuries of routine discoveries, they had found something truly new. On the planet below, billions of humans went about their daily lives, completely unaware that their very nature had just challenged everything an advanced civilization thought it knew about life in the universe. The research vessel Discovery hummed with activity as news of the scanner's failure spread through the crew. In the main conference room, Dr. Gray stood before his assembled team, the holographic display behind him showing repeated failed scanning attempts. After 50 attempts, he announced, "We can confirm this isn't a temporary malfunction. Something about these beings, these humans, as they call themselves, makes them impossible to scan." He paused, looking at the faces of his fellow researchers. Some showed disbelief, others excitement. Engineer Reed stepped forward, her diagnostic tools floating beside her. "I've checked every component of the universal bioscan 3 times," she reported. "The quantum processors are working at peak efficiency. The biorecognition systems are perfect. We even tested it on the planet's other life forms. Plants, animals, insects. Everything scans perfectly except the humans." The room burst into excited discussion. In the corner, Professor White, their oldest and most experienced researcher, raised a hand for silence. "In my 200 years of xenobiology," he said slowly, "I've never encountered a species that could resist our scans. Not even the crystal beings of the Omega cluster caused this kind of complete failure." Dr. Gray nodded and pulled up new images on the display. "We've been monitoring their global information network, which they call the Internet. Their technology is primitive compared to ours, but their scientific understanding is interesting." He flicked through several scientific papers about human consciousness and quantum biology. "Look at this," Engineer Reed pointed to one document. "Their scientists theorize that human consciousness might have quantum properties. They don't have the technology to prove it, but their math suggests something unique about their neural processes." The team spent hours analyzing the data. They tried scanning humans during different states: sleeping, awake, exercising, meditating. Nothing worked. The scanner either failed completely or produced nonsense readings that changed every second. "It's like trying to measure smoke with a ruler," Professor White muttered, staring at the latest failed results. "Every time we think we have something, it shifts and changes." Later that day, in his private lab, Dr. Gray made a discovery that shocked him even more. He had been reviewing scan attempts from different distances when he noticed something strange. The closer they got to Earth, the more their other instruments started showing slight irregularities. He called Engineer Reed immediately. "Look at this," he said, pointing to the data. "It's subtle, but all our quantum-based equipment shows tiny fluctuations when we get closer to large human populations. It's like they're generating some kind of field that interferes with quantum measurements." Reed's scales rippled with excitement, her species equivalent of getting goosebumps. "That shouldn't be possible," she whispered. "Not for a species at their technological level. Not for any species we've ever encountered." They brought their findings to the full team. The implications were enormous. If humans naturally generated quantum fields that could interfere with advanced technology, what else might they be capable of? "We need to make contact," Dr. Gray decided. "We can't understand this from orbit. We need to study them up close, work with their scientists." Professor White looked worried. "Direct contact with a pre-space flight civilization. Central research won't like that. It breaks dozens of protocols." "This discovery breaks everything we thought we knew about biological life," Dr. Gray countered. "The protocols weren't written with something like this in mind." After much debate, the team agreed. They would begin preparing for first contact. As they planned their approach, none of them realized that this was just the beginning. The humans weren't just going to change their understanding of biology. They were about to change everything the galactic community thought they knew about life itself. Down on Earth, the sun set on another ordinary day. Tomorrow would be very different. The first contact between humans and aliens happened in a large conference room at the World Science Center. Dr. Gray and his team had chosen this location carefully, wanting to meet with Earth scientists before approaching any governments. The room was packed with the world's top researchers. Security teams stood nervously at the doors, and cameras broadcasted the historic meeting worldwide. When Dr. Gray and Engineer Reed walked in, followed by Professor White, a hushed silence fell over the crowd. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us," Dr. Gray said, his translator converting his musical language into clear English. "We come seeking your help with a scientific puzzle that has challenged everything we thought we knew about life in the universe." Dr. Thompson, a leading human biologist with messy hair and bright eyes, stepped forward. "You mentioned in your message that you can't scan humans with your technology. Could you explain more about that?" Engineer Reed activated a holographic display, showing the universal bioscan's workings. The human scientists watched in amazement as she demonstrated successful scans of various alien species. Then she showed the error messages they got when trying to scan humans. "This device," Reed explained, "has successfully analyzed over 50,000 species across the galaxy. It works by reading quantum patterns in living tissue. But when we try to scan humans, the patterns, they keep changing. It's like trying to photograph a river. Every picture shows something different." Dr. Thompson rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "That's fascinating. We've had theories about quantum effects in human consciousness, but we've never been able to prove them. Our technology isn't advanced enough." Professor White floated forward. His species didn't walk, and shared more data. "We've noticed that human brains seem to generate some kind of quantum field. It interferes with our measurements and seems to spread to other humans nearby." The human scientists crowded around the displays, asking questions and suggesting tests. Dr. Thompson proposed a series of experiments where they would try to scan human brain activity under different conditions. "We can start with simple tests," he suggested. "Scan people while they're solving math problems, then while they're being creative, then while they're meditating. Maybe different mental states will show different patterns." The aliens agreed eagerly. They set up their equipment in a nearby lab, and volunteers from the science team took turns being scanned. Hours passed as they gathered data, everyone too excited to notice how long they'd been working. "Look at this," Engineer Reed called out suddenly. She pointed to a display showing brain activity during meditation. "The quantum fluctuations are different. They're not random anymore. They're forming patterns we've never seen before." Dr. Gray studied the readings carefully. "It's like they're reaching into another layer of reality," he said slowly. "No wonder our scanner can't process it. It's designed to read three-dimensional biology, but human consciousness seems to operate on multiple dimensions at once." Dr. Thompson looked stunned. "Are you saying human consciousness exists partly outside normal space-time?" "We don't know exactly what we're saying yet," Professor White answered honestly. "But whatever this is, it's completely new to our science. We've found species that can manipulate quantum fields using advanced technology, but never one that does it naturally, especially not on this scale." As the day ended, both human and alien scientists were filled with excitement about their discovery. They agreed to set up a permanent joint research facility to study this phenomenon further. Walking back to their ship that evening, Dr. Gray turned to Engineer Reed. "You know what this means, don't you? Everything we thought we knew about consciousness, about life itself, it all needs to be reconsidered." Reed nodded, her scales shimmering in the sunset. "And to think, we found this not in some advanced civilization, but on a planet that hasn't even reached space travel yet. What else might these humans be capable of that they don't even know about?" Above them, stars began appearing in the darkening sky. Somewhere up there, the galaxy waited to learn about the remarkable species that had just changed everything. 2 weeks after the first meeting, the joint research facility buzzed with activity. Humans and aliens worked side by side, their shared curiosity breaking down any barriers of species or culture. The main lab had been transformed into a maze of quantum sensors and biological scanning equipment. Dr. Thompson stood at his workstation, staring at the latest test results. "This is incredible," he muttered, calling Dr. Gray over to look. "Watch what happens when we scan a human brain during creative thinking." The display showed swirling patterns of quantum energy, like a colorful storm of possibilities. "The brain isn't just processing information," Dr. Thompson explained. "It's literally reaching out and touching multiple possible futures at once." Engineer Reed joined them, adding her own data to the display. And look at this. When we scan two humans working together, their quantum fields sync up. It's like their consciousness creates a shared space beyond normal physics. The discovery sparked intense excitement throughout the facility. Teams of scientists worked around the clock, running more tests and gathering more data. They found that human children showed even stronger quantum effects than adults, and that people in deep emotional states could create quantum fields visible to the alien sensors. Professor White spent hours documenting each finding. The implications are staggering, he said during one team meeting. Humans don't just use quantum effects. They're quantum beings living in a mostly classical world. Their brains exist in multiple states simultaneously, which is why our scanner can't get a single clear reading. Dr. Gray nodded thoughtfully. It explains so many things we've observed about humans. Their creativity, their ability to make intuitive leaps, their capacity for abstract thought. They're not just thinking about possibilities. They're actually experiencing multiple possibilities at once. One afternoon, a young human researcher made another breakthrough. She discovered that human emotions seem to strengthen the quantum effects. Love, fear, excitement, each created distinct patterns in the quantum field. It's like humans are natural quantum computers, Engineer Reed explained to a group of visiting scientists. But instead of using carefully controlled quantum states like our technology does, they somehow maintain quantum coherence at room temperature in the noisy environment of a living brain. The research gained attention across Earth and beyond. Other alien species began sending their own scientists to study this remarkable discovery. Each new test revealed something fascinating about human consciousness. They found that humans in groups could unknowingly synchronize their quantum fields, possibly explaining phenomena like crowd behavior and mass emotions. Artists and musicians showed unique quantum patterns during creative work, suggesting they were literally drawing inspiration from alternative possibilities. But here's what really amazes me, Dr. Thompson said one evening as the team reviewed their findings. We've been doing these things all along completely unaware. Every time we imagine something, every time we dream or create or solve a problem, we're reaching into the quantum realm. Dr. Gray had stopped taking notes, lost in thought. In all our travels, he said slowly, we focused on finding advanced technology. We built the universal bioscan to analyze classical biology. But humans show us that consciousness itself can be more advanced than any technology. The implications kept growing. If human consciousness naturally operated at a quantum level, what did that mean for human potential? What other abilities might humans have that they hadn't yet discovered? As Professor White wrote in his report to the Galactic Science Council, we came to study what we thought was a primitive species, only to find they're doing naturally what our most advanced quantum computers can barely achieve artificially. The humans don't need a universal bioscan. They are universal bioscanners, constantly sensing and processing quantum information through their consciousness. That night, looking at the stars through the facility's window, Dr. Gray felt a deep sense of humility. His people had traveled the stars, built amazing technologies, and thought they understood the universe. But here, on this supposedly primitive planet, nature had created something their science couldn't even measure. The real question now was, what would happen when humans fully understood their own capabilities? News travels fast in the galaxy, even faster when it's something that shakes the foundations of scientific understanding. Within a month of the quantum consciousness discovery, ships from dozens of advanced civilizations arrived in Earth's solar system, hanging in orbit like bright stars. In the Galactic Council's virtual meeting chamber, representatives from hundreds of species gathered to discuss the implications of the human discovery. The chamber buzzed with nervous energy as Dr. Gray presented the research findings. As you can see, he explained, pointing to the data streams floating in the air, humans exist in a constant state of quantum uncertainty. Their consciousness doesn't just use quantum effects, it lives in them. The chamber erupted with questions and concerns. A representative from the crystal beings of the Arcturus system spoke first, their crystalline form glittering. These humans could be dangerous. A species with natural quantum abilities could theoretically manipulate reality itself. Others disagreed. This is an opportunity, argued a being of pure energy. Think what we could learn about consciousness, about the nature of reality itself. Back on Earth, reactions were just as mixed. Some countries welcomed the alien scientists eagerly, while others closed their borders, fearful of what the discovery might mean. The World Science Center became a hub of global activity as researchers from every nation sought to understand their own quantum nature. Dr. Thompson found himself explaining the implications to a room full of world leaders. "We're not just thinking beings," he said, trying to keep his explanation simple. "Our consciousness exists partly outside normal space-time. It explains things we've never understood before: intuition, creativity, even some aspects of human connection." Engineer Reed, who had stayed on Earth to continue the research, added new data to the discussion. "We've found that human children show even stronger quantum effects. It's like they're born more connected to the quantum realm and gradually adapt to living in classical spacetime as they grow up." The implications kept expanding. If human consciousness naturally operated at the quantum level, what did that mean for human development? For education? For medicine? For space travel? Some alien species began to fear humans might be too powerful once they understood their abilities. Others saw humans as the key to understanding consciousness itself. Trade offers and research proposals poured in from across the galaxy. Professor White, still documenting everything, noted an interesting pattern. "The species most afraid of humans," he wrote in his journal, "are the ones who rely most heavily on technology. The more naturally evolved species seem more accepting, more curious." One day, during a global broadcast, a reporter asked Dr. Gray a crucial question: "Why do you think humans develop these abilities?" Dr. Gray thought carefully before answering. "Perhaps," he said, "it's because Earth is such a challenging planet. You have extreme weather, shifting climates, constant change. Maybe quantum consciousness was the best way to adapt to such an unpredictable environment." The galaxy continued to watch and wait. Some civilizations began sending students to Earth to learn from humans. Others withdrew from Earth's space sector entirely, worried about what might happen when humans fully awakened to their abilities. In the Joint Research Facility, Dr. Thompson made another breakthrough. "Look at this," he called to his colleagues one evening. "When humans work together, their quantum fields don't just sync up. They amplify each other. The more humans cooperate, the stronger their quantum effects become." This discovery led to new questions about human history. Had ancient humans used these abilities without knowing it? Were phenomena like mass movements, cultural shifts, and technological leaps actually powered by humanity's quantum nature? As the day ended, Dr. Gray stood with Engineer Reed on the facility's roof, watching the sunset. Above them, the ships of various alien species glittered like new stars. "What do you think will happen?" Reed asked, her scales reflecting the orange light. "I don't know," Dr. Gray replied honestly. "But I think the galaxy will never be the same. We thought we were bringing advanced science to a primitive world. Instead, they showed us that consciousness itself can be more advanced than any technology we've built." The sun dipped below the horizon, and real stars began to appear. Somewhere up there, the galaxy waited to see what humanity would do next with their newfound understanding of themselves. 3 months into the joint research project, Dr. Thompson couldn't sleep. He kept seeing patterns in his mind, connections he hadn't noticed before. At 3 a.m., he rushed to the lab, still wearing his pajamas under his lab coat. "Computer, show me all the quantum field readings from the past 3 months," he called out as he burst into the main research room. The AI complied, filling the air with glowing data streams. Dr. Gray, who didn't need sleep like humans did, was already there, studying late-night test results. He watched curiously as Dr. Thompson paced around the room, moving data points around with his hands like pieces of a puzzle. What if we've been thinking about this all wrong? Dr. Thompson muttered, more to himself than to Dr. Gray. We keep trying to understand human consciousness as either quantum or classical, but what if it's something else entirely? Engineer Reed arrived early that morning to find both scientists surrounded by a chaos of floating data points and equations. "What's happening?" she asked, her scales shifting color with curiosity. "Dr. Thompson has a theory," Dr. Gray explained, his four eyes wide with excitement. "And I think he might be right." Dr. Thompson turned to the display screen, pulling up images of human brain scans. "Look here," he pointed. "When we scan a human brain, we're not seeing quantum effects disrupting classical processes. We're seeing a completely new state of matter, one that exists between quantum and classical reality." Professor White floated in, drawn by the commotion. "Explain," he said simply. "Humans don't just think about multiple possibilities." Dr. Thompson continued, his words tumbling out quickly. "Their consciousness actually exists in multiple states at once, but not like quantum particles do. They've evolved a way to maintain stable quantum superpositions at a macroscopic scale." Engineer Reed's scales turned bright blue, her species sign of sudden understanding. "That's why our scanner fails," she exclaimed. "It's designed to read either quantum or classical states, but human consciousness exists in both states simultaneously." The team worked frantically through the day, testing the new theory. They'd modified their scanning equipment to look for this new state of matter they called quantum classical consciousness, or QCC. It's like humans evolved to surf between quantum and classical reality. Dr. Gray explained during an emergency conference call with the Galactic Science Council. Their consciousness acts as a bridge between the two states. The breakthrough explained many things about human behavior. Their ability to adapt quickly to new situations, their capacity for abstract thought, their tendency to find unexpected solutions to problems, all came from their ability to exist in this in-between state. "But here's what's really interesting," Dr. Thompson added, pointing to new test results. "This state is contagious. When humans work together, they can pull classical matter slightly into this quantum classical state. That's why they've been able to advance their technology so quickly despite their limitations." The implications were staggering. Humans weren't just unusual. They were a completely new form of life, one that bridged the quantum and classical worlds naturally. Professor White began documenting the findings in a special report. "In all our studies of life across the galaxy," he wrote, "we assumed consciousness had to be either quantum or classical. Humans show us there's a third way, a bridge between realities that we never knew could exist." Late that night, as the excitement finally began to calm, Dr. Gray found Dr. Thompson dozing at his desk. Looking at the sleeping human, he felt a deep sense of awe. Here was a being whose very consciousness danced between realities, who could think in ways his own purely classical brain never could. "We thought we were studying them," he said softly to Engineer Reed. "But really, they're teaching us how limited our understanding of life has been." Reed nodded, watching the quantum field pattern swirl gently around the sleeping human. "The question now," she replied, "is what other impossibilities might humans show us are possible?" Outside the lab, the night sky sparkled with stars and the lights of watching alien ships. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what other mysteries these remarkable beings might unlock. 6 months after the breakthrough, Earth had changed. The discovery of quantum classical consciousness, QCC, reshaped humanity's understanding of itself and its place in the universe. The World Science Center had grown into a sprawling complex of research buildings, where humans and aliens worked together to explore the possibilities of this new science. Dr. Gray stood in the main auditorium, preparing to present the latest findings to a mixed audience of humans and aliens. The room hummed with dozens of different species, all united by curiosity about human consciousness. "When we first came to Earth," he began, his translator converting his words into multiple languages, "we thought our universal bioscan's failure meant humans were somehow defective. Instead, it showed us that our technology was the one with limitations. The presentation screen behind him showed the new scanning device they had created, the quantum bridge scanner. Unlike its predecessor, this machine could detect and measure the unique state of human consciousness. With this new technology, Engineer Reed explained, stepping forward, we can finally see how human minds move between quantum and classical states. But more importantly, we're learning how to use this knowledge to help both our species. Dr. Thompson joined them on stage, carrying the first practical application of their research, a small device that could help alien scientists temporarily experience the quantum classical state of human consciousness. This bridge maker, he explained, holding up the device, lets non-human minds safely experience what it's like to exist in multiple states at once. It's already helping us develop new technologies, new ways of solving problems, new approaches to space travel. The audience watched in amazement as Professor White volunteered for a demonstration. When the device activated, his usually rigid floating form swayed slightly, and his voice took on a tone of wonder. "It's extraordinary," he said slowly. "I can see, feel, so many possibilities at once. Is this how humans think all the time?" But the changes went far beyond technology. Earth had become the galaxy's center for consciousness research. Ships arrived daily bringing scientists, scholars, and students from thousands of worlds. Human universities now offered courses in quantum classical physics and multi-state biology. The most exciting developments, Dr. Gray continued, are happening in fields we never expected. Human artists working with alien musicians are creating new forms of music that exist in multiple states at once. Human doctors working with alien healers are developing treatments that use the quantum classical bridge to speed healing. Even space travel was changing. Human engineers, now aware of their natural ability to exist between quantum and classical states, were helping design new types of spacecraft that could navigate through both realms of reality. Dr. Thompson stepped forward again. "But perhaps the most important change," he said, "is in how we see ourselves, both humans and aliens. We've learned that the universe is far stranger and more wonderful than any of us imagined. And we've learned that sometimes the most remarkable discoveries come not from our most advanced technology, but from simply being willing to accept what we don't understand." Engineer Reed's scales shimmered with emotion as she added the final part of their presentation. "We came here thinking we would study a primitive species. Instead, we found teachers who showed us a whole new way of existing. The humans didn't need to be fixed or improved. They just needed to be understood." As the presentation ended, the audience rose in applause, some clapping, others flashing lights or emitting pleasant frequencies, each species showing appreciation in their own way. Later, standing outside under the stars, Dr. Gray, Dr. Thompson, Engineer Reed, and Professor White looked up at the busy sky. Earth's orbit now sparkled not just with stars, but with ships and stations from across the galaxy, all drawn by the chance to learn from humanity's unique nature. "So," Dr. Thompson asked with a smile, "what impossible thing should we discover next?" Dr. Gray laughed, a musical sound. "With humans involved, I've learned to stop calling anything impossible." Above them, a new ship entered orbit, bringing more curious minds from distant stars. Earth had become more than just another world. It was now the place where the galaxy came to learn how little it really knew, and how wonderful that could be.